Hey y'all, how you doing today? Have you ever built up a team just to figure out that the characters that you thought were good are completely terrible on a tier list? Well, speaking from experience, I wasted my first 24 hours building niche characters like Arthur whenever the whole time I had this Delilah that I am progressing so much faster now that I'm using. Well, so that you don't waste as much time as I did, let's go ahead and analyze this tier list for the most efficient team available. And on the lowest of the low, at the absolute bottom of the list, we have Astara, probably because she has very low multipliers and low damage, and also debuffs her own energy gain by 50%, so if you're building this character, it's probably best to just go ahead and reset her. Vilgus is actually rated the second lowest character in the game, probably because whenever he dies, he comes back to life, but by that point, the battle's pretty much already over, so then he just comes back to life in like a 1v3 and gets annihilated again. Heya is going to be pretty low down there too, maybe because her buff only lasts for 4 seconds, and then she also supplies a little bit of damage resistance, which is fine, but based in terms of support, there's a lot of other supports that do much more than she does. Next is going to be Selita, probably ranked so low because she relies on dealing damage to herself in order to deal more damage to the enemies. Next is going to be Hydra. I mean, there must be something I'm missing about this character because from what I know about him, in the middle of the battle, he pulls somebody towards him and then just whips them like 10 times with a whip that depletes all of their energy. Now that actually does sound really good to me. He also ignores defense, so why he's rated so low, I'm not sure. If you know, please let me know. This is just the Korean tier list. It's the most updated Korean version, so they also have a few updates before we do. Maybe there's like a balance change later or something that I don't know about, but if you have any idea, then leave it in a comment. Now these images that I'm looking at on my phone are pretty hard to see, so if I'm wrong about who this is, then let me know, but I think it's Uriah. And this attack looks like that charge animation takes a long time to accomplish, so it might not be worth the damage that it does. Roxanne, potentially rated here because of her niche. She can disarm melee units, but not everybody has melee units on their team, or even if they do, it's probably a tank, and it's not the end of the world if they get disarmed. And on the other side of that same scale, we have Goal here, who can reflect projectiles, but again, not everybody's going to have a projectile user on their team. Here's Obero. Now we have a support with the disarm issue again. She has a lot of things in her kit that are supposed to boost her healing, but her healing multipliers aren't that great to begin with. Next is going to be Yorimasa and Yudo. Now this character can throw out some area of effect cyclones that travel around the battlefield, but with everybody moving around so often, you can't really guarantee the trajectory of it is going to be accurate. Oliver possibly down here just because he looks like a little bitch boy, but this attack looks really good. It hits 8 times and then gets additional penetration, and then after he casts it, he restores a lot of energy and he can cast it again. He's self-buffing. I mean, build him up and then test him out and let me know if he's niche or what, but that seems pretty good. Next up is going to be Ogier. He has a chance to dispel buffs and then he deals a portion of the enemy's max HP to themselves, but it's only 15% and it can't even kill the target, so yeah, I don't think I would be using him. Next up, Arcadia, aka Lil Bo Peep. She be throwing out a lot of sheepies on the battlefield, which I guess is okay. I mean, it just does a little bit of knockback mostly. She's like a sheep knockback mage. Next is Nu. Now these attackers are getting a lot stronger. This dude can put 40 stacks of a minimal bleed on the enemy, which is pretty cool considering he can attack the enemy 18 times with his ultimate, and this other attack I think hits like 7 times or something like that. Super cool character. He actually tossed me in the arena earlier. This is a little low for him to be rated, I think, but I mean, I guess a lot of other characters probably just do a lot more. Next up is actually who I swap my carry to, Bayo. He can deal a lot of attacks with his ultimate that does a decent amount of damage, but the thing I like about him is he self-shields himself just intervally all the time, and he is always the last one on the battlefield whenever I'm using him. Sinin is actually pretty good. I think by this point we can say that we're getting into the viable characters, but she's more of an in-game character because she has a dodge build, and it takes a lot of stats to build up dodge to be efficient. So in the end game, whenever she's just like dodging left and right, she's gonna be a double S tier at that point, but for now, in the early game, she's not going to do too well. Now Elena, she's sort of like a super tank to keep everybody on your team alive. She sacrifices a portion of her HP to ensure that someone else on the team doesn't die, and she can do that multiple times per round. Pretty good tank. Next is going to be another gimmicky animation character, Lawrence. He has attacks that are even slower than normal, but they just deal increased damage. He's sort of like a cannoneer that can put barrages out on the battlefield. Next is Arthur. Not too great, not too bad. I mean, whenever he's in the middle of his skill, he's invincible, so that's cool. You could potentially pull a wombo combo on somebody and make them waste a very valuable ability with that, but that's way too hard to do strategically, so I can see why he would be down here. Next up is Roland. He's not particularly great at anything. He's just sort of does what every protagonist in every game does, which isn't too bad. He shields himself and he has some decent attacks on him. Skogul the Thirst Trap is about mid-tier at this point. Whenever somebody on the battlefield dies, her damage decreases, which is a little weird, but in turn, that means that whenever the battle first starts, she's dealing a lot of damage. So, give and take. Oswell, he's got a lot of multi-hit stuns. Stuns aren't really effective on everybody. That would be good for the arena, would be terrible for bosses. So, I mean, you know, people that are just niche. But he does look pretty cool, so he gets an S tier for character design. And that's gonna take care of the first half of this video, y'all. Thank you so much, DC Inside, for letting me review your tier list. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. But other than that, y'all, that's gonna do it for me today, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.